good to go, George?
We are
I'm good.
recording.
We are recording. Shall I do the intro?
Might be
Wait,
useful.
do you have that list, Jason, that we're going to talk about? There was a lot
Uh,
of something about hating Marines.
yeah. It's all on my phone that I have to use to. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh my Jesus
Luckily,
Christ.
George has his phone because he's recording on his PC, unlike us chums. So we're gonna be all good. So George, you're gonna MC this
Oh
shebang.
Christ, you're all screwed. It's all gonna go poorly.
Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the competitive Kill Team 40k podcast and YouTube channel focused on giving you the strategies and tactics to siege initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan and I'm here to give you the tips and tricks to elevate every part of your Kill Team experience. If you enjoy this content and you want more, you can join our Patreon for as little as £3 a month. You'll get access to our Discord, patron priority questions, early access to videos including Kill Team bat reps, faction guides and much more. If that's not for you, you can support just by hitting like, subscribe and sharing these videos amongst the community of Kill Team enthusiasts local to you. With all that said, let's get into it.
Let's get on into it then. Are we recording? Can I get
Yeah.
a thumbs up? Alrighty. Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the home of competitive Kill Team 40k, focusing on giving you the strategies and tactics to siege initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan, and I am joined by these lovely boys. I don't know where they are on the screen because my screen's different to everyone else's.
You're
I'll
the
just point
bottom
all
right
around me.
because you're the worst.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So these
Yeah.
boys, who are the brand new kids on the street for Turning Point Tactics, helping me hopefully put out more content than once a month, or so. But yeah, so let's go around. I can't actually see. So who's here, George?
No,
No one. You're bottom
No one.
right.
No one.
you picked almost the only way you could pick when nobody was.
So this one,
That's Mike.
That's
Mike.
me.
I can't see.
You remembered my
I
name.
can see. But it's
Fantastic.
the Mike S. I mean, there could have been a different Mike. That's the context of something missed for people watching this. But unless they were at the tournament, and then it wouldn't have been missed because true fans come to the tournaments. So anyway, Mike, do you want to do a little intro on who you are and why you're here?
Who I am? I'm
Yeah.
Mike S.
Where's the guy?
I'm the painter. I'm the painter.
What
I
do you mean
can't
the
play very
painter?
well.
The hobby guy, the one, the only, but also
The hobby guy, the one that decides to record his painting and
yeah,
take some actual photos.
which actually might be the most popular video on the channel recently. So that says a lot about probably all my content thus far. But there we go. Or out of the curiosity of like, what Turning Point Tactics is doing hobby videos, and everyone just like has to click on it to see what's going on. But no, Mike is a very, very talented commission painter. Also, surprisingly, very good at the game. As a bit of a okay. Well, Jason's not too sure, but I think Mike's got more trophies on his shelf behind him than Jason does. So we're gonna.
Yeah.
It's a pretty bad wall there, Jason.
So yeah, you've been running Felgor, right, Mike?
Forever.
Since the beginning.
Forever. Yeah.
Before they
Before
were even
Beastman
out.
McCall.
Since
Yeah.
somebody else played them and told him how. Oh yeah.
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 Okay.
Funny.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
But you've been in, so you played, so just for context, for those watching, you don't understand why we're doing this. We're going to talk about the new edition of Kill Team because we're a little bit behind. Because we've been too busy playing the game rather than speculating about the game. Because I think what's important with this is, I mean, if we're going to be honest, it's a brand new edition. The meta is going to be a hot mess for all of probably 3 months, and we just have to accept that. That's the way it's going to be. But what we wanted to do is actually get some experiences and a little bit more learned experience rather than just say pure speculation. This team's broken, this team's busted, and how many games have you played? None, but I read the rules and I think this is the case. So now we've played them and, well, they're still busted.
And teams are still busted.
But at least now we know, like with science and stuff. So that's kind of what we've been doing. So at the weekend, on Sunday, we held the first ever third edition tournament, which I assume, is the first ever, right? Because no one else I'm aware of snuck the tournament on Sunday.
I mean, if they did, they're not cool enough for us to know about it.
Well, exactly. I mean, like broadcast it more. So Jason was obviously he in organising that. Jason is which way is Jason for me, George?
He's directly above you.
Directly above. Oh,
Yeah.
nailed it. So Jason is obviously the community man. He is the TO, and he is the sort of the face of Kill Team, and the mouth of Kill Team as well in multiple ways, so to speak. So anyway, so Jason decided a good idea to organise a new tournament. My computer just turned itself off as well, so my lighting's just gone to poop. Oh, it's completely rebooted. Nice.
7.5.
7.5. I'm glad I did this. See, this is the benefit of being on the phone. My computer can't reboot itself midway through the podcast, and we lose it all because that would have happened. Anyway, where was I? I was fluffing up Jason. That was it. So Jason is the community guy and the TO, and that sort of stuff, and decided to host the tournament. Being the absolute saviour, falling on the sword rather than playing himself and stomping noobs, he TO'd again. But you're obviously a Harnkin Jaeger, not Harkin Jaeger, Harnkin Jaeger player, along with, to be fair, you have had a fair few teams.
So many.
Belgors, Harlequins, Pathfinders before that. I think there's any others.
I think I might get a punt in this. They seem better, but I don't know if they'll be good. They seem better.
We'll settle with better. Yeah.
Jason, the man that has said that he wants to get more competitive and is then not going with too strong of a team straight out of the bat.
Yes.
This is it.
Can't blame Marines. It's bullshit.
Hey, well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Marines might not be that good. You never know. So we've done the hobby side. We've done the community man. We have the legally not here, but it's required for tech support. Is it this way? Which way am I? This way, is it? It's the other side of my screen, guys. So this way, supposedly. We have the tech support who is also called Mike S for legal purposes, but no, he's not really.
True. I also have just as good hobby skills.
Yeah, I mean those Hand of the Archon that you were playing with the other day look really, really good. So they're incredible.
They're probably the only team that I put any real effort into.
But sorry, we obviously have George, the tech support, and without probably him, this wouldn't be possible because I've left all my stuff at the studio and I couldn't have done this. So anyway,
and then your PC restarted.
And then my PC restarted, so we've had to start again. Jason's only got 15 minutes left because he decided to be half an hour late. As you know, this is
you said 7:30, and I just thought you meant Central European time. So I've still got an hour to go.
Sure. It was a time zone issue, guys. So anyway, where I was like, yeah. So you have all now played quite a lot of New Edition. So Mike, let's go Felgors first. How are they feeling? Are they good? Are they bad?
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah,
that sounds
I'm a big fan.
And how did you do at the weekend? How did they perform?
I had to play Blooded on Beta Decima, and that was rough. Really rough. Short edge deployment. So walking up the longboard, Chris decided to pick the better side, and I spent all my equipment points on smokes, ladders, barricades, everything I could. So that was rough.
But does Beta Decima feel better now? Because before, let's be honest, we were putting it in the bin, right? Because not everyone had ladders. We were like, we're done with this. But now, better?
Yeah, definitely better. There's more ability for me to move up the board without being punished so much.
And how did you do in this game where you're complaining so much about Beta Decima?
The phone is moving.
So, obviously you must have got stomped because you hate this game so much, right?
Yeah, sure. No.
It's pretty strong.
It ended up being a brawl in the middle, and that's as strong as they were. They don't die, so it's fine.
I have found that not dying is a pretty strong characteristic of a good team. Because I was playing Warp Coven, they also don't die. But let's move on to the Archon before we go into that, because we'll get into the Elite meta shortly. So I have played a couple of matches against Elites now, and It's fine.
It's bullshit.
Um,
It's bullshit.
It's just slightly horrific.
It's bullshit.
I think there might be some count. Well, there might be a few counters, but it's probably not going to be
It's
many.
going to be all Inquisition and all the things they can take.
Yeah.
It'll be the 6 attack multi-melter.
We can come on to it. That's some cheese in there. But let's talk about Hand of the Archon, because that's what you were playing, George, right? Wherever you are in this weird up here somewhere.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm nailing it now. So just double checking. Mike, George, Jason, right?
He's on
Nailed it.
Such a quick learner. So how are they playing? Do you find them better than last edition, worse last edition? What was your vibe?
I think the fact that there's no longer faction tack-ups made it a lot harder. Because especially because of how I'm used to playing them is heavily pushing for the pain tokens, and getting pay the soul debt can be at least like a good 4 or 5, or can be like a good maxed tack-up. But now that that doesn't exist, you're having to deal with the really hard recon or the reasonably hard seek and destroy tack-ups, meant that it was just a lot harder to get anywhere. So I did slightly worse than I was hoping for, and I lost 2, both against elites, so obviously it doesn't count, and then a draw against a draw against Ed's Breaches, which was kind of more of a game that I lost than it was, or that I lost the win than it was anything, in that I just didn't play the mission well. But the team itself has kind of been a lot of side grades, to the point that I think they have more play to do stuff, and it's not just a single way that you can do stuff now, but it is completely relearning the team if you've been playing them for a while.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I feel like a lot of the teams do feel completely different, because like now your pain takers, you start with one at turning point, right? Like I think you can get one.
You can if you decide to gimp your entire team.
If you,
so when
some people like that,
they definitely like it. When you pick when you pick your medic as an operative, he gives everyone a drug. As far as I can read, it's the same as the previous version, which was everyone gets the same drug, and the drug that gives people a pain token is as a strategic gambit. So you have to give everyone this one thing that only one of them can use.
With you. And he has an ability, right, where he can like change the drug halfway through. You can't use that to give people pain tokens, or can you?
You could, but then you can't get it until turning point 2 because it's a strategic gambit.
With you. Okay, gotcha.
That said, also as an aside, within the Archon, the leader's cunning ploy, where it's if he passes you get extra CP, because of how many things are being pushed into the strategic gambits now, it's pretty much entirely free. So I don't think there was a game when I didn't have at least 7 CP at some point. Even after trying to spend as much as I could.
That sounds great. Totally fine.
He still didn't get a win.
No, still
didn't get a win, even with all the CP. I mean, to be fair, maybe that's why. Like, maybe you should start spending that CP rather than just hanging.
I was like at 7 and then all the way back down to 3 or 4.
It's like George Gringotts over there, just hoarding all this CP. Right. I'll talk through Warp Coven before we talk to you, Jason, because you can talk about the overall vibe of the tournament. They're insane. They're absolutely insane. I don't know why they're so durable. Like, rubrics have a 2-up save. They can ignore or reduce piercing by 1, which means pretty much most teams that have any piercing against you. And then they have 14 wounds. And that's like not their only defensive buffs, but that's pretty crazy. I went with a loss and 2 wins. I lost against Novitiates, because Novitiates are also surprisingly really weirdly tanky, because they can just change all of their dice basically. They have infinite faith. I think I rolled pretty terribly. There was also, I did a lot of shooting into Obscured, which wasn't very good. Don't shoot into Obscured, but I was just trying to test it out. And that was my first time I Warp Coven. I lost by a point, and then I'm pretty sure I maxed both of my next 2 games. Once I think I figured out roughly what the sort of the vibe of them were, and a lot of people just can't do the damage that they need to. But it's not just that, because the sorcerers also have defensive buffs. So the sorcerers are really good in melee. well, not really good, but they're pretty good in melee. The rubrics are very, very good in shooting, and therefore the rubrics are really defensive against shooting, and the sorcerers are really defensive melee. So like the combination of the two just means that you basically have these guys that don't take much damage and can even heal up due to the fact that the change in counteract means that you can use spells or psychic actions on conceal and just heal your dudes even when you think that they're dead and they're not. So yeah, like you can potentially heal like a guy 4d3 in a turning point, which is pretty nuts. So yeah, Warp Covenant seemed really, really strong. So that was interesting to play with them as elites. But Jason, you sort of saw the event from a whole. What was people's general vibe, do you think?
Everyone that wasn't playing Marines said they're never coming back, so that was pretty shit. I think everyone enjoyed it. There's a lot of, as we've already sort of talked about, I think the core mechanics have changed quite considerably for scoring. And it changed away from we've talked about this personally, where you previously felt like you rushed to be on all the points. And that was the way to win on the primary. And now you probably want to be the last person on the point in almost every mission, apart from loot, which has stayed the same. Seems like out of 9 missions, probably one of them is still a rush to grab it, which is loot, and the others are be the last person on there. So that sort of changes your whole thing. All the teams with forward deploys, you probably don't want to use them all. You probably need to hold back more often than you think. So like Jaegers that I've been trying to main, even in the old edition, I didn't use all the forward deploys all the time. And now it's even less. Sometimes it's just you just use it for the sake of using it. Get closer to a portable barricade or something if you want to use that. But you don't really want to advance up the board. You actually want to take your time. And I think a lot of people were struggling with that, certainly in the first 2 games. And then in the last game, they were coming around to, I think this team has got play if I don't put all my guys in the middle in turn 1.
Yeah. I think it definitely feels like turning point 1 should be a much slower turning point for most people. I think people, so by slower, I actually mean the opposite. It's going to play really quickly, but it's like there won't be much happening. Because I think people should probably be looking at turning point 1 as just setting up. I think people are spending a lot of brain power in turning point 1. Thinking more.
You won't go too far wrong if you approach it how you used to approach Into the Dark.
Yeah.
So a lot of positioning play, a lot of measuring out non-reciprocal charges, whatever you're doing. You did a lot of that, knowing that there's probably not a lot of aggression and there are no points to be scored. So you're all looking for, when you do a thing, how do I punish the thing you're going to do? And that all of your operatives probably set up in that sort of way.
Yeah. And so like for elite players, you want to be basically setting up the models so that you can reach objectives and do damage. So you want to be quite aggressively placed. For your horde players, you want to be measuring off of those elite models to make sure that you're far enough back so you don't take too much damage. As I said, and you raised a point there, loot clearly changes the tempo, so you will have to change up based on which mission you're playing, but most of the missions feel like a slower tempo is better for you. So which should be better for non-elite teams. But there's some changes like counteract which make it much better for elite teams. You have to be very careful if you try to saturate or threat saturate an elite team, because if you give them too many targets, they will literally kill everything. And then they'll still, after they've done that, then play the mission when all you guys are dead. So that's a really weird change. Like the change for elites is they play very, very differently, and they feel real strong, like really strong. Which I guess let's just talk about elites generally now, because I think most people are going to be quite worried about elites, and they probably are the strongest teams in the game right now. But there are probably some counters out there as well. If I was to stack them in terms of power, I think the strongest elite team is probably Legionary. The reason why I say that is because they have like the abilities to be really durable against a high AP team. They can be very durable against a melee team. They can, play ITD well. They can, they can basically flex what they want to do really well. Whereas Warp Coven, which I think probably is the second strongest elite team, are a bit more rigid. Like you can play lots of angles if you want to, or you can play, I don't know, more flamers, less Soul Reaper. But you're kind of getting the standard 3 sorcerers, 3 rubrics if you want to go put on elite. And I think the legionaries are just better. It's not like a 1-to-1 matchup. So yeah, like it is a tough one, but it is a close game. I think that's one that you'll be a few points in it. But the fact that they can just run all Nurgle, ignore all your piercing, your guns just aren't as effective, kind of just sucks. So you're reliant on sorcerers killing, whereas they have more ways to kill you. And if they can get in combat with a rubric, they probably kill it. So yeah. So those are the 2 that I think are at the top spots. Next up, I think Nemesis Claw.
Nemesis Claw above Angels of Death?
Yeah. So, and the reason so okay. I think Angels of Death is probably better into a lot of other teams. So it's an interesting one because I think Nemesis Claw is going to be better into Angels of Death, but Angels of Death is going to be better into all your Horde teams and that sort of thing. Because they double kill far easier. The Silent Sniper is fantastic. You can shoot twice during his activation and then counteract and shoot someone else, all whilst on conceal, which is incredible. And then you have the double shoot ability. You can have saturate on your guns, or you can have like a kind of severe like rule with sharpshooters. So they're great, and they ignore APL modifiers as well, which is probably one of the stronger points. But with Nemesis Claw, I think they can kill each of your operatives 1 for 1, and they have the prescient to be able to wait you out, and they have like more, just slightly more ability to actually kill Marines, whereas I think the bolters bounce quite a lot. So, yeah, so like in that specific matchup, probably most of the games you want Angels of Death, but if you're playing against a lot of elites, which I think the meta is probably going to be at the moment, or how it feels, I feel that Nemesis Claw would be better. After that, I think it's going to be Phobos. I think Phobos got some cool bricks that they seem to have quite a few interesting bits, but again, you're looking at a bunch of bolt guns against some very hard to kill Marines, and that probably sucks. So that's kind of like my feeling on the ranking of those teams. But there's so much tactical depth there in the way each of those teams play, which I really like. Like, it's really cool that they've done that. I think they just probably have too much in comparison to a lot of the other teams. Well, that's how it feels at the moment. Maybe we'll start learning more counters and more play around these guys, but it doesn't feel like you have to put too much thought into, who's doing what each turning point. You can kind of just push forwards and kill, and it kind of works out all right generally. But
it feels like a lot of compound changes, doesn't it? Like all the changes to the core mechanics have made 6 model Marine teams actually really efficient at playing the mission all of a sudden. But they haven't actually lost any killing power. They've gained survivability when they already had it. And they probably gained combat potency where they already had it. So they've become better at the 2 things they did well already, and all the core mechanics have changed to make them also be able to play the mission really well. So they actually have no weakness.
Yeah, so here's a really interesting point. So when I look at Marines, it used to be an issue was APL efficiency. So effectively, you had a 6-man Marine team, you have 18 APL on the board. You need to use that APL to score missions, kill your opponent, move around the board, all that sort of stuff, right? So how you use that is really important. Now, if I said your Marine team are like basically custodies and they all have 4 APL, but one of them you have to use after they've activated, that's how counteract works, suddenly you have so much more that you can do on the board. So you can move, double shoot, and sit on an objective, your 3 APL, your opponent can't take it from you. And then when you counteract, you play the mission. Or you play the mission straight away and then open up for a shot later on, right? Like, that gives you so much flexibility that you couldn't have before. And that's where they really struggled before. So now Marine teams are like 24 APL is a way to think about them, potentially. Depends on how many counteracts they have, but generally 24 APL. And your, standard 10-man team is 20 APL. So it used to be that you had an APL advantage versus elites. Now you don't. It used to be you had a wound advantage versus elites. Now you don't. And so they can use that APL so much more efficiently than they could previously. And I think that's where I see this. One of their main strengths gains is that change to counteract. which is really cool, but probably too strong, I think. There's a lot of flavour in those teams now. So, yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, because they season the flavour with the blood of all the other teams. So, the other players. Just might as well, if you don't play Marines, just put all the rest of your models in the bin. Might as well. And just buy some Marines. That's what GW want. If you don't like Marines, just learn to like them, and then you'll be fine.
Or just hate yourself.
Yeah.
Have you tried?
Just be that guy that always has to be last. There's always a prize for last place, so just don't play Marines. You'll get it. Fine. You'll win something.
Yeah, I do think they'll get balanced. The benefit of it is I think it's great for new players right now because the strongest teams in the game, arguably, are the easiest teams to play in the game. I think. So what used to be the case was the strongest teams in the game were the hardest teams to play. So they were your teams like Brew Brothers, Inquisition, like Breaches for a while, Vet Guard, that kind of stuff. Like these were teams that were like really, really strong, but they were very, very fragile. They're very hard to play. Like Pathfinder, for example, loads of mental cognitive load. So if you were like trying to get into the game and be competitive, you always play one of the top teams, like you probably weren't going to be able to do that initially because you're still learning the basic rules. Whereas now it's 180 out, right? So and I know this is one of Games Workshop's like primary design aims was accessibility. I think they've sort of nailed accessibility in this game. It definitely feels easier to play. There is quite a few bits that I think need tidying up on FAQs. We'll talk about Inquisition 6 attacks in a second. There's quite a few bits that need tidying up on FAQs, but generally, I think the game plays better from like if you were to bring a new person in and play a game, it feels easier. Like there only being one tack up, for instance, the fact that they can score from just killing you, I think it's a great change. Those kind of things, I think, the change to obscurity, I think is good. So yeah, I think those bits are kind of
good changes. The mission types changing up, I think, was really really needed. For any of us that have been to like loads of tournaments last year, you get to the same 3 missions and they became so stale. It's the same loot, secure, capture over and over again. So having 9 missions, that's needed. Even though some of them do seem overly wordy and in the way they like explained, and like Mike and I had it with upload, it took us a good 20 minutes to decipher it. Like this, it is actually really straightforward. Why the fuck did we not understand this in the first place? But I think a lot of it is rule speak that you need to decipher. Probably better to talk it out with somebody to decipher it because you bounce off each other and figure the bits out as you go.
I mean, I'm half expecting that in a year and a half, 2 years, they'll just bring it back down to 3 like they did with the last version. Because we had another 6 or 9 before.
I think you'll see community balancing in tournaments. There will be some missions that just don't work for tournaments. And we will.
I imagine. We haven't necessarily found them yet, but
no, because we've only had one day of full gaming, haven't we? Really. You probably get 5 or 6, I would imagine, that we'll say as a community those are the best ones. So they probably won't need to because we already have made the selection. They can just run the same 9.
I think what would be good, LVO was 9 rounds, so that's good for them because they can run 9 different missions. But for big tournaments, like 7-round tournaments, being able to have a different mission every game is nice because again, if you're playing a mission for the second time, you're like, okay, sure. And it's probably, as you say, the 69th tournament of this year that you've gone to playing the exact same 3 missions. I do wonder if maybe for accessibility, 9 is slightly too many. I think they could have done 6 initially, maybe.
There's a lot of overlap, though, isn't there?
There is a lot of overlap.
I ran Transmission as the last mission yesterday because it's so similar to Secure.
Yeah.
So there is overlap. So if you know how probably 2 or 3 of them work and they're different, they probably are very similar to the other 5 or 6. And you can see, it's just when you crunch the last bit, it's like, oh, this one is now a movable marker, and this one becomes a non-sticky marker, and so on and so on. Those slight differences are not huge, but they do make the game play different.
And one of the things I'll say as well, I love the fact that all the crit ops now require mission action. Like, I think that is a fantastic change.
Yeah, because
More because it just so all of all the
You charge, you fight, you do your crit op mission action, and then you counteract and do your tack op mission action.
yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Well,
everybody else is just dying. Just like, cool. How many kill ready on? Yeah, I'm on 1. What about you, Ryan? Oh, I'm on 6. You've died. Everything is dead.
Marines are great. They finally unnerfed Strike Force Justian. It's just
By
sad that they
removing
did it
it.
when they by removing it and put it in session
It's
together.
a different team.
It's just sad that they buffed all the Chaos Marines at the same time. Like, why can't they just give me like a week with Angels of Death being the strongest team? But no. I agree with you, but like the good thing about that is, like, for instance, if you have a team that has free mission actions on your roster or something like that, like, suddenly it becomes usable. If you have, like, it was always rough playing against like the melee hordes that could just walk onto objectives during capture. They're not spending any APL, they're doing their stuff, and they just basically deny you points. So I like the fact now that you have to at least invest something into scoring the primary, because I'm sure they have 24 APL, so the Marines have the advantage, but it'll be good in future. And to be fair, a simple nerf to most of the Marine teams could just be getting rid of a Marine. But the kill up already has an option for 5.
Yeah, I think that is actually a real, like, minimal work required for them, just to say actually down to 5. Probably if
Like,
they don't feel massively oppressive. They've got
Yeah.
crits oppressive, so they could probably stay 6.
I mean, similarly, could you
And they
not just
still
say
get one shot by like a melter with a good roll?
could you not just say you just can't do a mission action on a counteract?
Then it balls us up all the other teams.
Well, no,
Most of the other teams aren't going to be counteracting anyway.
Well, they are if they play Marines.
On 20.3, they're already down to 3 models. They need those counteracts. It's all they've got left, which is probably a very, very true but sad state of affairs. So I don't disagree, because that's the other option of doing it is changing how counteract works, which might be a way. I kind of like counteract. Maybe Marines don't need to do it on conceal. Doing it on engage is probably enough, but even then, they on 20.2 they're still going to run forwards and do their stuff.
When you can't one shot a rubric with a hot roll on your melter gun, it doesn't matter if they're on engage or conceal, does it?
Yeah, and so it's probably like one of the bits we should talk about with the maths of it, whatever. Because we were doing a little bit of number crunching, and I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but I think it was sub 30% chance to affect kill a Marine or a rubric with a melter gun that had relentless and a blooded auto retain crit. That to me just feels, because basically what you need is you need to roll two crits and the rest be hits and your opponent not save them, and that's just absolutely insane to me. That's too durable. And I guess that was a bit. So I was talking to Chris about this after the game. I said I don't mind Marines being durable. Like if you whiff and the Marine doesn't die, like you don't get all your hits or something. But when you've got the best, highest damaged weapon in the game and you hit everything with it, and you think to yourself, "Nice, I've done the damage. This guy's going down," and they don't. That really, really hurts. Like that is a kick in the nads right there. And even so, interestingly, if you were to chip a wound off of most of the Marines, that would also probably work. You could bring them down to 13 wounds, and then they're not 2-shot to a melter, but a crit and a hit will kill them. And it just changes their breakpoints on some things. But generically, I think going down to 5 operatives, even if that means later on you need to make each Marine a little bit stronger, I'm kind of okay with that. But it is a fine balance, because people do get a bit of a sad on when they're trying to, when they want to play the game and go, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "I wouldn't try killing anything, because you're not going to." And they just go the amount of times we'll just go "Oh, I've got a crack grenade," and it's like, "So what do you save on? 2s, right? I hit on 4s." And you go, "Yeah, cool." And it's like, "Did this AP work?" No. It's like, so you're rolling 4 dice on 4s and I'm rolling 3 dice on 2s.
It does feel like
Like-
at the moment, if you're playing
And then I
against a
might
league
turn the damage
team,
down.
you're going to depend on knowing what the tiebreaker is and just try and lose less on that thing.
Yeah. So
And it sucks that the first thing is just lose less.
like, straight away you're into the. I'm not winning this, but maybe I can not lose too badly so that my overall score carries me through. I don't think it's too bad. Like I said, like I lost novitiates. It is possible to lose, but
But
I
however,
think-
that was like one of the best players in the country
yeah,
with a team that he has mained for about 2 years.
yeah. Well, yeah, but they've changed a lot to be fair. But yes, Tom's a very exceptionally good player. I agree. And there were some quite wild dice rolls as well, which I don't know how impactful it was, but I think he won by a point. So
Yeah, there's 1 point.
yeah, I think if I killed another novitiate, I got another kill up point, so it's a draw. If I killed another 2, whatever, then it's a win on kill up. So yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, but I agree. It's not impossible. It's not insurmountable. But I think the changes to like plasma being less AP and the fact that they've given so many teams now the ability to reduce their impact of piercing is really strong. Like that feels like it should probably be once per game, maybe like, or like maybe make it so it's 1 plus CP each time you use it. That could be a good way around it.
Like the two, like Wormblade, Warp Coven and Legionary have the ability to stack 2 really strong rules together. I think that's probably broken. So you could take Nurgle Legionary, be really resilient to shooting, and also play the ploy to make you have -1 to hit them in melee. So they're actually quite resilient to melee as well.
Yeah.
So actually, there's no reliable way to kill them. And the same thing with
because they have an icon bearer, they can just get CP
yeah.
like George's Gringotts. You know, they've got the same, and it's just like they don't know what to do with it. So they're obviously going to spend it on that every turn.
Those 2 ploys every turn, yeah, when they need to.
And even if they don't win initiative, they get 2 more CP to do I don't know what with. Like they're just laughing with how much CP they've got. It's wild.
By the way, I think you actually lose slightly harder against Tom than you did. I think it should be a 2-point difference.
It should be a 2-point, should it?
Looking at some of the kill ops, you had a 2 and a 3, and that should never be the case. If he's got a higher kill grade, he should have a 4.
That is true.
There's a couple of instances just looking at round 1 where that's existed. So I think that's going to be something that people need
maybe
to.
It's a 2-point. There you go. Yeah, that would make sense because
you can never have a 1-point difference.
Yeah,
you can have a 1-point difference. You are correct. It was a long game.
Yeah.
It was a long time. Yeah, I've slept since then, but I believe you. To be fair, it is on stream, isn't it? So we can actually go back and look.
We've even got the data.
We got the data. We can reconstruct the scenario. To be fair, that was what, like at the end of the game, he was like, "Did I think I maxed my attack ops," and I was like, "Did you? Like, who scored this?" And he's like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Well, did you score it or not?" And he goes, "Well, I wrote down my notepad that I did," and I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Oh, we can just go to the computer and reconstruct it." And so I went back and I went, "Yeah, this guy did." Like, but he dashed him off the center line afterwards with the ploy. Anyway, streaming can be useful, is what I'm saying. Not that everyone should stream all their games at a tournament. That'd be mental. A lot of streaming setups.
and no TOs would be happy with that shit.
Yeah.
And confirm, all TOs will be not very pleased.
Also, Sanctuary Wi-Fi would just be like, please, for the love of God, just let me die. Like, you can't all try and stream on this. Everyone trying to get on BCP, being like, why is it not working? Why is it working? So should we talk about some of the FAQs that we think should probably get answered?
Yeah.
So I've got one that I'm going to bring up straight away because I think one of the teams that can potentially beat Elites is Inquisition. And there are some silly things that I don't think should necessarily exist. And I just, whilst you guys think of the ones that you found, I'm going to talk about this. So Inquisitor Agents, really cool thing. You get 2 books now, right? And they can be the same book on your Tome Skull and your Interrogated Agent. And it gives you either Denunciation or Sanctification. Sanctification is defensive bonus, -1 attack dice. And denunciation is +1 attack dice to people nearby. That's really cool. Both the Tome Skull and the Interrogate Agent can have the same book. So there's nothing in the rules that says that rule doesn't stack. So if they're stood next to each other, you can be -2 attack dice when shooting at them. Then when they activate, they can change that to the aggressive mode, and they can move up as a GA2 and throw a 6 attack crack grenade in your face, which is pretty wild. But you could also use that to boost a multi-melter to have a 6 attack multi-melter, which is even more wild. So again, don't think I'm almost 100% certain that's not rules as intended. I might be wrong. Maybe it is, but I'm going to put money on it. I put Jason's money on it that it's not that it's not rules as intended. But so that probably needs tidying up, because that's definitely a rules as written versus rules as intended one. I'm sure there is more though. Have you guys spotted any that you think needs to be?
I think there's one that I know Mike has probably still got PTSD from, is the equipment on IT, or equipment in general, but equipment especially in ITD, in terms of the only limitation is 2 inches away from other equipment.
Yes.
So things like barricades, which then just blocks off a hatchway.
Agree.
Damn barbed wire.
But then also, right, and it's weird because when you open the hatchway, because you should be able to open the hatchway, where does it go if the barbed wire is blocking it, and where does the barbed wire go, right? Because again, because that probably shouldn't be happening. Almost certainly that should be 2 inches away from the hatchway. It feels. But weirdly, some of the equipment specify more than 2 inches away from the hatchway. So rules as written, it's pretty clear that the intention is that you can put barbed wire over a door. But then that leads to so many questions. Unless, of course, the answer is you just play a token. Maybe that's the thing. I'm not 100% sure. So those sort of bits do need clearing up. There's what else is there that needs clearing up? There's a few that I thought.
There's a few minor things, like the ladders don't have a prescribed distance. And there are 2 types of ladders in the kit. There's like a compact, not extended ladder, and obviously a fully extended ladder, which is about 3.5 inches, I think. So it should give you an ability to climb 4 inches for 1 inch. And so there's some discussion where some people are like, "Oh, do I only climb the distance of the ladder?" And then if that is the case, then that means the small ladder it costs you 1 inch because it is 1 inch.
Yeah,
you don't gain any benefit from it. So that needs clarifying, because it also has a line, which I think I'm fairly confident in saying, that it says if you continue to climb, sorry, where is it? Once per action, whenever an operative is climbing this terrain feature. So the argument yesterday from some people was that could loosely refer to the terrain feature you've placed the ladder on, not necessarily the ladder itself. I think that needs clarifying, because you could put it on a 6-inch tall building and say, well, that gives me, I can climb up it for 1 inch.
Yeah. And it's like, well, also, where do you end it? Like, do you end it at the top of the ladder? Do you end it at the inch on the ladder? How many floors can you climb? And also, does it just mean that if you put the ladder against the Volcus building, the whole of the building
go to the top for 1 inch?
Counts as having ladders, right? So I imagine the way it's intended is the height of the ladder is irrelevant, but you have to climb near the ladder to whatever height you want to get to. That would kind of make sense to me. So you could go all the way to the top floor.
For 1 inch. That's kind of how I ruled it yesterday, and then I'm looking at it now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe not. Like when I went home and read it, I was like, maybe not. Maybe you should just climb the 4 inches.
Just the ladder.
3.5. We put it 4 inches. You round it up. That costs you 1 inch, and then you finish the rest of the movement. Because I'm like, you're still climbing 6 inches for 3 inch cost. That's still good.
I guess it probably won't tangibly make too much difference, because that top, like, I think the only thing that is on Volcus that is that tall is that tiny little top bit on the tower, and you should be able to get to anywhere within that if you were to do the first 4 inches as one and then do the rest. You probably still end up at the top, but on a regular move, unless you're, I don't know, the dwarf or something.
I think so. The reason it came up was the top of the Volcus building is really good for a sniper nest now. So the floor gives you light cover if you're a concealed sniper. So you can't actually be shot if you're not overhanging the edge of the floor, which everybody will probably avoid. So if you had a ladder there, then you're also at risk of make a charge because it only cost me an inch to get up. And if I can fit, which is another problem because that tiny piece of floor probably doesn't fit any two models. But if you found a way that you could fit because of how they're positioned, they could be vulnerable. But now they're basically invincible.
So I think somewhere in the rules
Yeah,
it does talk about different bits of the same piece of terrain have different rules effectively, or like treat different parts of the same terrain as separate pieces, even though the rest are the same. Because it's the same where a single piece of terrain can give you cover and obscurity.
So the reason the ladder question came up
Right.
was for Beta Decima on the furnace piece, the big piece in the middle. It's like 6 inches to climb from the bottom.
Yeah.
So if you put a ladder on it, they're like, how much does it cost me to climb? Because actually it costs 4 inches. Because if you do it the way I think it's supposed to be, you spend 4 inches going up the ladder, but it only costs you 1. You finish the remaining 2 inches to climb, and then going through the floor is accessible, so you lose another inch.
Yeah.
It actually costs you 4.
You can't even do it with a move. If there's no ladder, you can't even do that with a move.
Can't do it with the move. Yeah, you can't actually climb from the ground to the top of. Well, unless you're an elf. An elf team can. If they were touching the furnace when they start the move.
Yeah.
Because they're 7-inch moves.
Yeah, but you have to just basically move directly horizontally.
If you're already up, can't
Sorry,
make any
only
horizontal move. Yeah.
Yeah, no horizontal move. Hmm.
So
That means,
you know,
yeah,
when I
probably.
when I look at it like that, I'm like, it makes sense. Then the ladder just gives you 1 inch to climb the whole thing, so you'd lose 2 inches because you'd have 1 inch to go up and then 1 inch to go through the accessible floor. And like that makes sense because that makes the teams that don't have movement shenanigans
I mean, are there
more
any
accessible, and that is obviously the intention. That's why
of
there's no
the Beta
climbing
Decima
equipment across
maps
the
that
game.
don't have some other piece of terrain underneath the furnace anyway?
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, the furniture usually.
Or have they just
Furnace
made
is
it
always-
entirely solo now?
You have the heavy bit in the middle, but then you have like the rim, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
meant like because at least in some of the old maps there was a piece next to the furnace normally, or to the point that you could climb up from a lower level.
Oh, yeah, you can. You can always
usually,
get to it from another gantry, but it's more exposed usually, isn't it, to be on a gantry?
Yeah.
That makes it harder. So Mike was playing it yesterday. Not that Felgor need help, but it makes it harder to move your non-range guys up the board compared to other teams that have movement shenanigans and don't give a shit.
A few of the bits that I'd like clarification on is what we should use physical models for and what we should use tokens for. So mines, do we use the physical model? Do we use a token? Because it's very different based on what you do. Same with the ammo cache.
It just says mines market. And and when you go to other teams like Jaegers that have mines, it tells you to use a token. So there's obviously ambiguity there. They work exactly the same, but why does one say a marker and one says a token?
And that's kind of the thing. It would be useful to have that sort of clarity. There's a bit on vantage as well. So if you're on a vantage, you ignore all the other parts of the vantage for determining obscurity. So you can shoot through it basically. But like if you're on top of that mega tower and someone is at the other side of your building, so you're shooting essentially across your building in cover, do you ignore the heavy cover that's attached to the whole of the stronghold, or do you just ignore the one that you're shooting through within an inch, whatever? That's something that probably again just needs a bit of clarity on. It's hard for me to explain verbally, but it kind of makes sense if you see it visually. It's like what do you ignore when it comes to obscurity is kind of the question, right?
Yeah, if you've got a wall that's like 3 inches away but it's attached to that same vantage, are we saying
ignore that?
Oh, I ignore that even though it's half a move away?
Yeah. It's like so what counts, what doesn't? It used to be just stuff within an inch, right? And so you always had to pay the penalty for what you were shooting through, but you never got the benefit back when you're on advantage, which was confusing for new players, but overall quite good, I think. So there's a few bits that need to be clarified, but general vibe from me is the game is fun. It's good for new players. I would 100% recommend playing with elites if you're a new player. Like, get yourself a quick 6-man elite team and just get your reps on the game whilst it's fun. Make sure all your friends have been playing the game for ages, play big board teams, and that they can try and have like almost like a boss fight versus you, which is nice because if they win, they're going to feel great about it, And if
Yeah,
you
who
lose, it
needs
doesn't
friends?
matter
Who
because
needs
you're
friends? You don't even need friends. You can play on your own now, so it doesn't matter when you have no friends left. It's fine.
you just can play the new joint ops mode and just sit there and self game. So yeah, so like that's what I'd say. Like it definitely feels more accessible. I don't know. What do you guys thinking? Anyone else
I think
thoughts on?
so. One big thing I like is it feels more dynamic, and I'll break it down a bit better to explain what I mean. So in the older edition, there were like almost I will say preset moves. So if you played like Vet Guard, for example, and you played Loop, you knew that the first activation was 2 guardsmen go to 2 of the furthest positions and they loot it straight away. And you probably are looking at a 2-point deficit in the first turn. And nothing you can do about it, right? And almost everybody you played who ran Vet Guard did exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And, you started to see a lot of patterns. Everyone who played Galapox probably set up the same way. Drawn to the Harm, took two objectives really early with a GA2 Glitchlings move. Same sort of shit. This doesn't have that, because actually you are more reliant on seeing what your opponent does first. And that dictates a lot of how you are going to play the rest of the rounds. You can't just be like, well, this guy, in turn 1, I always move this guy to here, and then he always goes for that objective. That is not always going to be a thing, because your opponent might not set up in the way you expected. And as we talked about, there's more incentive to be the last person on the objective rather than the first. So you are more reliant on seeing how things are unfolding rather than just saying, "I'll move up here. I'm definitely up 4-2, and it'll be harder for you to catch me than for me to lose this lead." And the other thing I like is it feels like your decision making matters more. So again, going back to the old edition, you could move up and tap those 2 objectives and go 4-2 up and lose those operatives and not care. And be like, they did their thing, right? But actually, it does matter more because you're giving up kill grade. You're losing your ability to do tac ops because they will require mission actions. Losing up ability to stay in touch with the crit ops because that requires mission actions as well. So actually, those decisions are all really impactful. And in all the games we've played, even in the last throws of the game, it feels like the things I'm doing do matter. Like they are going to have an effect on how everything works out. Why are they little thumbs up?
Because
Why is there a
your
thumbs
hand
up?
keeps having a thumb up.
Yeah. So I like that. I like that the fact that decisions are less like throwaway. You're not like, oh, move, I took 2 points, I don't care now. If you kill that guy. It actually makes a big difference. You can move, take a point, throw away a guy and actually give your opponent 2 points. And you have to think about all of that as you're going through.
The game definitely feels much closer in points until turning point 4. So like I think you can be down on points turning point 2 and 3, and it doesn't necessarily matter. Like you can come back on turning point 4 and swing quite significantly. So one of the interesting points that I've noticed is like where the threshold is for VP and what's really important for VP threshold. So it's far more important stopping your opponent going from 2 VP to 3 VP in a tac op, a primary, or a kill op than it is from going from 3 to 4. Because for their primary op, that gives them an extra point, and then same for 4 to 5 versus 5 to 6. So you have these like break points. So like it's almost like this turning point 4 becomes a really weird game. How do I stop them from not just scoring like a point, but like, as you say, stopping them getting the next threshold point on what they could be trying to score, which you still don't necessarily know because it's all secret, right? Which is kind of cool. I like that sort of that element. I don't think anyone really knows who's winning until like the game's over, and it's like, I think I've won, unless you like table your opponent and you've maxed every turning point, but which is elite players. So elites already know who's won because they've won. But for everyone else, it's really interesting because you don't know until the last few swings, right? I think that's kind of cool. Like, I like the fact that it doesn't feel like there's too much of like a you're out of it straight away kind of thing because it's that 3-round scoring. You can go down on turning point 2 and still bring it back, and you're still probably scoring something on turning point 2, right? So you're probably still getting like a point on your crit op, your kill op, your tac op. You're probably getting a point on in turning point 3. So you can still be going to turning point 3 like 2-2-2, and they're going to be 3-3-3. They're 3 points ahead, and then you go, no, I'm now denied you getting any more, and suddenly they're out. I think that's really cool. So those breakpoints, those VP breakpoints, as I'm going to call them, is something that I need to do an episode on talking about that, because I think that's going to be how you assess that and how you try and deny people Turning Point 4 scoring is, I think, going to be really critical to give you more wins going forwards. So a few of the episodes that I'm going to try and record this week, now that I've actually played some games, is like an assessment of the missions, the crit ops themselves, like how they actually play, and the tempo for those missions, because I think is really important. And then breakpoints for that, and the assessment of the attack ops as well. So like, I want to try and get into the deep dives of the competitive stuff that a lot of people probably have been waiting for, but I need to see it. I need to play it first. If that makes sense, because without playing it, you're kind of just guessing, unless you've already somehow managed to get loads of games in. But most people haven't. Was there anything else on the list, George? I think we covered off Jason hates elites. We covered off
We
the
could always
overview
talk
of
a little
the
bit more about elites.
thing.
The only other thing Jason cared about was the new teams.
Oh, what there's the new reveals?
Yes,
That is exciting.
Wild speculation based on the very limited information we have, because we have such a good track record of knowing exactly how it's going to play out.
So I'm guessing you've seen, and the bit that I'm interested in is, well, you obviously love the battle mutt, don't you?
Love that
Right.
battle. What a dude! What a dude!
He does look pretty damn cool. I mean, he's got very strong quads as well. On
He
his
has not
rear end.
single leg day in his life.
Yeah, and amazingly, his face is almost identical to yours. I don't know how they've done that.
That's why I love it. That's why I love it. 8 years, especially the chewed up one.
Yeah, the chewed up here. So the bit that it looks like they're going to be an abhuman team. So they've got obviously in there when it says talking about the Bulgarin and the Ogrin. I don't know if that's going to be like a single boss model. I feel like it probably is going to be like a Patriarch-esque kind of thing where you get a huge Bulgarin or a huge Ogrin. That being said, you have the Blooded Ogrin. That's only like 2 models. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but it'll be I mean, I'm not a personal massive fan of Rattlings.
Shit.
I like the dog.
Because of the Marines. If they were Marine Rattlings, you'd be all over it.
Like, how are they going to fit in the Marine armor? I don't understand.
There were like 3 of them on top of each other. One with really long like sticks for arms. It'd be fine. Fine, they could do it. I'm sure they could do it.
That's how
This
Jason
way you
used
make
to do
an
his job.
Angel Death team out of Rattlings, where you just stack Rattlings on top of each other. It's like 3 Rattlings are actually now a single Marine. Like the models look kind of cool. They're kind of like a
kind of cool. The leader's just drinking a cup of tea.
They've done a good job on the models. I'll be interested to see their rules, like how they're going to make these little tiny dudes functional. That'll be interesting.
I mean, they all seem to have like high-powered sniper rifles.
So they're probably going to be like hitting on 4s, maybe with balanced, something like that. Like,
if they all have piercing, maybe that would be decent.
Surely devastating. It's got to be the standard like sniper thing. But you are right, though. They all do seem to have sniper. So I don't know.
It says you can build them as specialists, or you can build them as snipers.
Okay, so there we go.
We all know my stance is it's not Tyranid, so who cares? And that will continue to be the stance.
Well, they do have some Xenos, because you are the Xenos man. So what's your thoughts on the orcs? They're
It's
like
not Tyranids, I
aren't
don't care. They do look kind of
They're
cool.
all Xenos. They're all Xenos. Anyway,
It's not the same,
heretics
man.
and
It's not the
Xenos
same.
wrong.
I do
Right,
like
the
some of the
racist
weapons do
photo.
look pretty cool.
Like I see again. I'm not like a massive. This is again. I'm coming out like a imperial fascist. I don't really like them Xenos. I don't really like them abhumans. You know, I'm more of a pure strain kind of guy. Protect the gene seed and all that. But I think that'll be interesting. I think they're a lot more orky than the commandos are for like a traditional orc vibe, which I imagine is going to get people excited.
The tanked up does look kind of cool. And we were talking about it earlier
Yeah.
until Mike decided to ruin all the fun of how high could that APL modifier go. But still having them just sitting on a point being whatever it be 3 APL just by shooting stuff is some strong control on these objectives.
So whenever friendly operative has an engage or forms a fight, you add one to the APL stat. So if you shoot, you just get an extra APL. Wow, or 5.
If you move on to objective and shoot something, you become 3 APL until the start of your next activation.
That implies that they're going to be 2 APL team.
Yeah.
No, that's what it implies. Because you ain't going to be getting 4 APL. Like,
Yeah, but the fact that
Balls.
you can just throw one guy on and it's basically as good as a Marine.
However,
that is kind of cool.
add 1 to its APL stat until the start of it. So it actually becomes 3 APL during that activation because you no longer generate APL when you are activated. So essentially, you fight or shoot for free.
Yeah.
Because you spend it and get it back and do something.
But it
else.
also means that you can like go on to objective, fight, then you count through APL. So if you don't kill, well, if there's someone else contesting the objective, you can then potentially steal it from them. Which is
Or you
So
just
potentially
denying
you
someone
charge
else.
essentially you charge and fight, you get your 1 APL back. Then you shoot something else, you get your 1 APL back.
potent.
Oh yeah, because you can't modify your stat more than 1. Yeah, okay.
I think you can't modify by more than 1, but
That's the two rules.
I'll check that in the core rules because if not,
If that doesn't exist
because-
anymore, then that means you can.
Yeah,
You
otherwise I
you
would
can't
do-
modify more than
Yeah, okay. Can't modify
Imagining that Mike is wrong and that you can do it, that means that by the end of a turning point, one of these orcs could have like 5 APL.
because if you
Glorious.
counteract.
I'm never wrong.
It's during action, isn't it? During their action.
Yeah, I mean they look like fun. I don't know how though. Obviously, we don't know how any of it play.
Oh, they can do it on the. So it just says whenever they do it, because then you can do it on the counteract as well, right?
Yeah, but then that because you don't generate APL at the start of your activation, you wouldn't be 3 APL in that next activation.
No, but it's to your stat.
Yeah.
So it's just.
Do we know that they are 2 APL?
We don't
No,
know.
no,
we're just assuming, aren't
It
we?
could
We're
be
assuming.
4. It could be 5 APL. It could be 5 base. Get
They'll
to
be like,
this.
fuck Marines! Yeah.
I'm assuming that they're going to be 3 APL.
You think it'd be 3 APL up to 4? No.
Yeah, if they do it on a counteract, they can go up to 4.
No, they're going to be.
I mean, I think they probably play like Hyrotech.
Yeah,
Maybe the leader
I
will be
think-
3 APL with a way to get some free actions out of other things. Everything else will be 2 APL.
I think they're going to be
Like
11 wounds.
6 operatives with 2 little bomb
Yeah.
crew. That's what I was like.
Yeah, to be fair,
but that's
Mike is
how
right.
it's
Looking at their
17.
photo, there is only 6 plus the squigs.
Yeah, that's Hyrotech. That's exactly the same as Hyrotech. Big hero model. 5 plebs, 2 tiny boys.
Yeah,
But the tiny boys are going to
reckon
be
they're
expendable.
it looks like their weapons are going to do big damage as well. Like it.
Yes.
Looking at, I mean, I've never been hit by a rocket before on a sledgehammer, but I'm going to guess that would be bad against most things.
Yeah.
So, but they look cool. I mean, they're orcs.
Is there a
The only thing
sledgehammer
is-
with a rocket in it?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
It's like the head is the rocket.
They've been playing some killing floor.
The only bit that
Yeah.
I am going to be sad about, and you guys may or may not be sad about this, but Kill Team has been in one of those tournament environments where no one has unironically screamed "War" at the top of their voice during a tournament.
Oh
like,
no,
ever.
I've heard it.
In a Kill Team
Mr.
tournament.
Molson, he's done it before. Yeah.
It's awesome. But this could become more common, and I feel that's a real shame for the entirety of the community. I'm not sure if there's a way that we can publicly shame people out of doing that. You know,
Just
we
get
don't
Chris
make
on.
people feel bad, but
Well, I
Yeah,
just
that would-
did.
yeah.
So
yeah, trying to make sure people just don't ever do that ever. I'm not saying it's cringy. It's just that no one wants to be around you when you do it. You know, so
It's almost as bad as playing Marines exclusively. Ryan. Almost as
wow.
bad.
Wow. I didn't play them exclusively. I actually chased the meta, I'll have you know. So
He just played Imperium the whole time.
he's
Only
only
play the
sour
Galvas they're
about
good again.
he can't beat them.
yeah. You can't beat them, you've got to join them. No, I think Inquisition's got to play. I'm going to give that a go next. The thumbs up again. It's back. I don't know why he keeps doing that, but
Because he keeps that thumbs up.
I think Inquisition have play. I think is there another team that has play?
That's
That's
it.
kind of sad, isn't it?
That's it. You either play a Marine team that isn't Phobos, or you play Inquisition.
Well, seems
If you want to win a tournament, that's
well,
where
no,
you
Brew
go.
Brothers should be all right. Brew Brothers should be pretty good.
I will be interested to see one of you guys who's actually better at the game play Archon, because you can now very feasibly have 2 piercing 2 weapons,
Yeah, but nobody's going to do that because team shit.
and you can just retain a few crits.
The crits bit is the good bit because that's the thing I think elites don't like. They don't like lethal 5, and they don't like. So there might be something there with Hand of the Archon if you can force through enough crits. To be fair, I was playing against Wayne with his Wormblade. He was rolling. He had the rending on his shooting, and he kept rolling crits. So he was just like loads of crits, and it actually forced through quite a bit of damage. Not enough, obviously, because of the Marines, but that might be the way forwards. So maybe Hand of the Archon could have something in there. I should probably give them a play at some point. I do have somewhere some unbuilt, unpainted on sprue Hand of the Archon models. So I just need to find a painter that's willing to sort this out for me at some point.
Mike
Just
loves it.
staring at the screen.
Is the
long
whole
enough.
reason that you got Mike into the group so that you don't have to pay for it anymore?
No, I actually offered to pay. Believe
He
it.
did offer to pay.
But Mike is just such a hero for the channel. he refused, and he just loves early rules that much. To be fair, you might be able to get some rattlings and commando knobs because I don't think I'm playing either of those teams. So you guys can fight over the small knobs.
Do you guys want to talk about the new global mission thing, the Great Gunfires?
Yeah. So we need to do that. So really cool opportunity for everyone who's like new to Kill Team and wants to basically get all the free plastic in the world ever. GW are announcing very shortly. Well, they've announced it as a mission pack.
No, it's out today. Yeah.
Oh, it is perfect.
Yeah, came out today.
So you can win an entire year of Kill Team, which is pretty cool. You have to be 18 plus though. So sorry, Dan Barton. But you will be. So basically, you need to basically play and submit the mission brief. And it's so if anyone doesn't know, Volcus is where this whole season is set. It's a huge, massive gun that's on Volcus that is blazing into the sky, and you've got to try and get the gun to shoot and save the day. So you can play that. We're going to try and record it on a bat rep, show you how the mission plays, get people into it. Clearly, it's going to be Marines versus Marines, so that we have a chance. And then, you just want to get the big gun shooting. So do that, participate, because you never know. You might win all free Kill Team, which is worth actually probably quite a lot of money.
So much money. So much money.
I'd be interested to know like what they actually do give, because if you get all of the data cards as well, that could be a lot.
You're into the thousands by then.
Yeah, because it could be a lot. So I think it opens on the 12th of October.
I think all you have to do is upload your results, right?
Yeah, so you've got to be subscribed to Warhammer and then upload it in a few days. And it's all of the new releases, which doesn't include re-releases.
Nice. So do that. Subscribe to the newsletter on Warhammer Community to Kill Team, so then you know all about the latest Kill Team news as well. Make sure you subscribe to us, because then we'll tell you about it and what's going on in the community. Play your game and let us know how it went, and let us know what teams you played, what you thought was good about the new edition, was bad about the new edition as well, because we're interested to hear that. Because maybe you might have found out the perfect counter to elites. I guarantee you, a Crute player in Italy that is telling you right now the answer is Crute, and he knows, and so he is going to be.
He won't comment on this video because he ignored us when we said Crew were rubbish about a year and a half ago.
I don't know if it was him. To be fair, there was a guy that went to WTC with Crute and won like all of his games, so it could be him. So, I think there's just a guy out there like this Crute savant that's just like you don't understand the numbers, man. It's all up here, and he's just there, just like doing stuff with Crute. And maybe that's the answer. And I don't know, but let us know what you find out, because it'd be really cool to see what the meta's doing. Because generally, most people seem pretty excited about the new edition. They seem to be having fun. As I said, it's going to be an absolute hot mess for the meta for at least the next 3 months, probably 6, if I'm honest, because they'll do a balanced data slate where they'll hit all the big problems, like all of the big problems in the next balanced data slate will go. GW are really good at doing that. And if a team's really rubbish, they'll get a buff. But what's going to happen, guaranteed, is all those big problems are going to go, and then we'll see all the secondary problems that we didn't realize were a problem just yet because they've been hidden by the bigger problems. Then they'll go, and then we'll probably be in a state of balance, right? So that's my gut reaction. Is I call it 6 months, and then everyone's going to be saying we're having the best time of our lives, and that's going to be as we head into summer.
When all the teams have been phased out unless they are Marines. That's how they'll achieve balance. Just everything will become Marines. Everything.
It's like, how do we get this game to be quicker? Just more Marine teams. We're going to keep bringing out more and more Marine teams. It's like just the next box set is just 5 custodies. Right?
Here's 5 Marines. Whoa! How cool is that?
Again, I think for accessibility, it would be good to make them 5-man teams, because you could do stuff. There's a few more bits to come out on the channel soon. Clearly, we've got loads of bat reps that we've been releasing. That's us trying to understand the rules of the game and actually give you informed content. So watch those if you're a patron. They're already up. If you're not a patron, then why aren't you a patron? Why haven't you joined yet? We've got bills to pay over here.
Because there was no content.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. There was no content for a while. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. But we're now trying to fix that, because we have a whole team, as you can see. So whilst I'm traveling for work, stuff still happens in the background, which is nice. And yeah, so we're gonna hopefully do those. I'm gonna try and get those videos for the patrons out this week. That is my goal, so that you guys know that there is good stuff coming. But I also don't want to lie to you guys and give you rubbish content and just throw something out that I made in 5 minutes and say Recon's the best thing in the world because it was the last edition, and then you go and play it and you go, hang on a second, this is all lies. Ryan doesn't know what he's talking about. I wouldn't betray your trust like that. Well, maybe I would, but I think that's going to bring us to the end of the episode, unless you guys have got more stuff, but it's getting quite late, and Jason has to be in work in probably like an hour or something, because I don't know what he does anymore, but it's always ridiculous. Let's sign off. I'll go around the room. I've already forgotten who's where. Mike?
Hey.
Me?
Mike. Anything that you want to sign off on? Any final thoughts or anything you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, Elite, they're not that bad. I already know the secret.
He knows secrets.
What the fuck?
He gets it. He is the savant of Thelgors.
No, he's not.
It's the same thing.
No, he's not. I
Is he the
manipulated
ghost?
all his parents, so he didn't have to face any. That's what happened.
He says he manipulated parents. I faced Phobos and I faced Legionary.
Yep.
And he beat both of them. They're easy.
Not having it.
Made us look stupid. So, Mike and I are going to have a grudge match. I'm bringing the Legionaries versus Thelgor. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's it.
On
and
Vegas.
then, and if Thelgor win, then I concede, and they're the most broken team in the world.
Fair.
That's it. The only way.
In the meantime, all the moderate players need to join me with their pitchforks and torches, and we will march on GW headquarters and burn it to the ground until they fix this game.
Luckily, it's not that far for us because we're not.
No.
I remember when
and get back in time for dinner.
When Kill Team Casuals were talking about burning down the Warhammer world. That's more of a commitment. One of them's got to fly from Australia. Ben's got to come from the US. Russ has to come out of his cave somewhere in the northwest. I don't know where he is, but I assume it's somewhere there.
Jason can just get on the tram now.
On the tram?
Yeah.
I'd walk. It's a half an hour walk. Just walk.
So local. So yeah, be advised, GW employees, if you see a small man with a pitchfork approaching the the compound, just make sure you just put a cone out or something if we can't get around. George, anything you want to say?
I don't think I can follow up from that one. At some point when I've bullied Jason enough, we'll probably just throw out the spreadsheet from the last tournament.
Oh yeah, we got some data. So to be fair, if you can chuck all that up on Discord, because basically what George did in the background is did a whole bunch of number crunching from the first tournament, and we're going to do ideally some more in future. So he's done that. He's made some pretty graphs and pictures to be able to show you average points and that sort of thing.
Now, I'm actually going to have to do the graphs. You're making me do work now, man.
He said it now, and this is recorded.
What I've done there, right, is it's a really good management technique where I've bigged him up and I've said all the things he's going to do, and now he feels guilt tripped into actually having to deliver.
If there's anyone on the Patreon who can do graphs in Google Sheets, hit me up, and you can be an unofficial member of the team as well for all of 5 minutes. So
George is going to get on that, and he's going to get it done by 10 o'clock tonight. He's such a hero. But where was I going with that? Yeah, and then once he's done that, he's going to build an entire team of replica Jasons to play as
Ratlings.
What are they called? Yeah, Ratlings.
That's racist.
Whoa, why is it racist? It can be black or half black.
Sorry, this is not going to go down well. We should end
soon.
I'm cropping that bit out.
Your closing remarks on team diversity for Turning Point Tactics.
Yeah. That will be a Patreon exclusive video for 18 plus members that we can verify their ages.
Mate, that sounds weird. Why are you verifying their ages?
I said what I said.
You made it a little bit weird now, guys. That's on you. That's on you. No, are you speechless again? I mean,
who, me?
Yeah. I actually.
When am I ever speechless?
I think that's what you were closing out on.
I'm closing out on Marines are cunts. That's.
And we got the C-bomb. It's been at least 2 minutes, so hopefully people will do it.
We're going to have to re-record, sorry guys.
Yeah. So that is going to bring us to the end of the episode on the C-bomb, as I won't say per usual, but is becoming more common. Hopefully you did find something new or useful whilst listening, and if you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated. Please make sure and go and share this with your local kill team community, your friends and your family, all that sort of stuff, so they can benefit as well. That'd be awesome. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, please hit that subscribe button. There's a little bell icon at the top of the screen as well you can click to make sure you get notifications as soon as the next episode drops. If you can't wait and you do want more content that I'm potentially going to do this week by the time I leave for America, I need to do it now because I've promised now. So you can do that by going on to Patreon and joining up at Turning Point Tactics, and you'll be able to get early access to all our content ahead of time. A few things I'm trying to do on there. I'll do those few bits of content. We might try and do a bit of a refresh on how the Patreon works. We've got some ideas on various tiers and how it can actually be better for people. So if you support more, you get more back from it. I do want to take a quick moment to say a massive thank you to all the patrons. The guys that this side of me are all available to help now because of the studio that has been paid for and is being paid for by patrons. So that's really awesome. I really appreciate what you guys are doing to support the channel, and that is epic. So lots of more cool things to come. But as always, we'll appreciate your feedback. So if you think there's ways we can improve, things we can do differently, more content ideas or suggestions that you want to see on the channel, drop them in the comment below. Let us know how you're enjoying New Edition, what teams you're playing, what teams you're excited to play, Marines, and then what teams outside of Marines you're excited to play against other teams that aren't Marines. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Turning Point Tactics. I'm your host, Ryan, and we will see you, hopefully, well, not next week, these guys might, but you'll see me on Patreon. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks because I'm going off to America for another trip. So, see ya.
Bye.
Right.
That brings us to the end of the episode. Hopefully you found something new or useful while listening, and if you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the bell so you get notifications as soon as the next one drops. It really is the best way to help a small channel like ours. And if you can't wait and you do want early access, we have a Patreon where you can get exclusive access to all our content ahead of time. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Just drop a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host Ryan, this has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next week.